All right, I'm going to begin tonight by doing a reading from one of my favorite books called The Courage to Change. This is one of the Al-Anon books. And I love the reading from March 19th. It kind of fits right into our program for tonight. I came to recovery with a compulsion to focus on other people, had a clear idea of how everyone should behave in every situation, and felt very self-righteous when they didn't follow my rules of conduct. When I realized that my own life was being neglected because all my attention was elsewhere, I had to make some major changes. Today, I still have to be vigilant about minding my own business. I know that when my thoughts begin with he should or she shouldn't, I am probably in trouble. I don't have the answers for other people. I don't know what is best for others. Of course, I don't know what the lessons their higher power is offering them. I only know that I'm caught up in what they should or should not do. I have lost my sense of my humility and my recovery. I am focusing on someone else to avoid looking at something in my own life. Today, I grow in my ability to relate to others when I allow them to be exactly as they are. The greatest gift I can give to myself is my own attention. There's a quote from Benjamin Franklin: clean your finger before you point it at my spots. I love that. I wanted to really read that tonight because I want to talk about another concept of addiction. See, we've spent the past weeks talking about the inside of the iceberg and different issues connected with the iceberg. But then we go to the outside tonight. On the outside, we have this concept of addictions and how addictions literally are ways in which we avoid looking at the inside. But addiction has a lot of faces. We know the traditional ones. We've seen them for a long period of time: drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, food, relationships, and we can go on and on and on. But really, we never take a look at what I call the face of addictions, those core issues that go along with it. Because one of the things I realized over the years when I've worked with drug addicts and alcoholics especially, just putting down the drugs and alcohol does not mean you're in recovery. It just means you're dry. The hardest part of recovery then starts, which means going to the inside, defrosting the iceberg, and being able to really take a look at yourself as an individual. But I looked at the concept of the reading today, and I realized the fact that so many of us have a tendency to migrate towards these issues I want to talk about tonight to avoid having to look at us. I'll give you an example. My very first 12-step meeting I went to was in 1969. A friend from the parish took me there. And I went there because I was living with an alcoholic pastor. And I went to the meeting, and I was convinced at that meeting, the reason I went there was for them to show me how to fix him. But see, the people at the meeting were extremely strange. They kept telling me to work on me. And I told them I didn't come to this meeting for you to work on me. I came here to get the formula to fix him. Now, I'm stubborn. I went to quite a few meetings looking for that formula. But I always played that game the reading said tonight. I was too busy looking at everybody else's stuff. Because believe it or not, I didn't realize this at the time, because I was frozen on the inside. How scared I was to look at me, to look at my insides, to look at the real sense of who I am as a person. Then in 1972 and 73, when I had my nervous breakdown, I ended up in a psychiatric hospital. The doctor in the hospital said the exact same thing. And I used to joke and say he went to the same Al-Anon meeting. But the bottom line was, he said to me, Vince, I was a priest at the time, he said, you're spiritually dead. You have no idea who you are. You know who you are externally. And you function extremely well externally. But internally, you're empty. You have no sense of self. Everything you do is based around what you do, not who you are. He said, I have no sense of spirituality. And I didn't understand that because I was a priest at the time. So as a result, I just simply said, what do you mean I don't have any spirituality? I'm a priest. But I truly understand the word. It took me from 1973 to 1986 to finally begin to understand what that word really was all about. And the actual definition of it is to come to an awakening of my personal self, to come to a knowledge of myself, to be able to embrace my personal spirit. And so really, in reality, the concept of it was totally different. And I share that with you because I realize over and over again, so many of us have a tendency to migrate towards some sort of addiction or the behaviors that go with it to avoid looking at the core, the center, the things we have to look at. Many remember when I did my codependency series, I've often said that codependency is the root of all addiction, because codependency then makes us go look at that iceberg and begin to defrost it. So tonight what I want to do is I want to talk about something I put together. It really helped me tremendously, and so I want to share it with you. And I refer to it as the 10 faces of addiction. As Loretta said, I put these on my website under my Vince's Corner on Starting Point's website, under Vince's Corner, and on my YouTube channel at the bottom. So they're in the PDF files, so you can actually download them if you want to. But these 10 basic faces of addiction, I'm going to talk about the face of an addiction. I'm not looking at the actual concept of an addiction per se, but it's the things that go along with it that are real behind it. And many of us use these things to avoid, to run away from, and to hide from looking in the mirror. Now, many times when I give talks like this, people say to me, oh, he's talking about my sister. Oh, he's talking about my aunt. My aunt should really hear this talk. And I don't say it, but I would love to say, hey, stop. Forget your aunt, forget your sister, go look in the mirror. Because I'm really talking about me, I'm talking about you. And that's the hardest part of life, in the journey of life. I'm not saying to psychoanalyze yourself and make yourself crazy, but really just to get a sense of who I really am on the inside, my feelings, my spirit, what makes me who I am, the constant energy. So I'm able to share that and connect that with others. I'll spend a lot more time on the recovery process of this when we do the recovery process next week. But I really want to emphasize that fact because as I look at these faces, I'm giving addictions a new face. So you can look at them from another perspective. The first one I put in here was the word denial. Now, many of us migrate into that word, and sometimes we have to do it because it's also a necessary word. We get into denial because I'm trying to not face something I want to face. You've heard the term in Al-Anon, the elephant in the room. The situation is right there in front of me, but I don't want to deal with it. So I make believe it's not there, even though it's there. And so many times in life, how many times do we avoid, try to run away from, and literally, that's another word in there, to avoid different situations in life because we're uncomfortable, because I don't want to look at them, I don't want to deal with them. And as a result, they have an effect on our life. We even do it with our health very many times. There's a big difference between, what's going on up here and what's going on down here. So many times we say things like, oh, I know, and yet we don't do. You say, don't you see what you're doing? I know, but you keep doing it. So we get into aspects of habits. And so addiction has these faces, and denial is a face of addiction. Because in denial, I'm avoiding. In denial, I'm running away from. In denial, I'm basically staying there because I want to be able to just be comfortable and not have to feel. Because I'm learning something in life. Only until I allow myself to go into my feelings and deal with them do I learn the positive side of them. It's the old Buddhist principle of the yin and the yang, negative and balance, negative and positive. And so we have to learn that in life. I have to be able to face my negatives so I can discover my positive. It's a process we go through in life. The second one is the face of fear. So many afraid to make changes, to face things, to do things, take risks, because basically I have the addiction of fear, the face of fear. It's another way to avoid. And very many times I have a tendency to do that because I'm too scared, I'm too afraid to have to look at things and deal with things in my life. You know, one of the greatest gifts in life is the second part of the Serenity Prayer, where it says, courage to change the things I can, courage to look within, courage to embrace, courage to learn, courage to grow. So courage goes along with the fact of being able, we talked about that last week. Fear is an illusion. Being able to walk through our fears and get to the other side. And yet fear can be paralyzing. It is the face of many addictions because I'm afraid to make a change. So if I truly do face my addiction, then I have to begin to look at the other side. I have to begin to grow. I have to begin to heal and move forward. And that's work. There's a beautiful phrase in my eating disorder anonymous program where it says, there is no magic in recovery. Recovery is hard work. And I've learned in life that truly to earn something, you have to really work at it. You can grow from it. It's very powerful. It opens up a lot of doors for you. And so the concept is, fear is something that literally freezes us, embalms us, and keeps us from moving forward. The other face of fear is blame. And by the way, this is a good one. See, as long as I can blame somebody else for what's going on, I never have to look at me. And boy, I lived this one for a long period of time. I blame my mother, blame my family, I blame the community, I blame the church, I blame this one, I blame that one. And I had this wonderful philosophy for a long period of time. If only they would change, then I would be okay. And yet many times in my life, because of fear and the concept of blame, it kept me from making a lot of decisions, a lot of changes, a lot of growth in my life. And I stayed in that concept for a long period of time. But it was a lot of fun, by the way. As long as I can blame somebody else, guess what? I don't have to look at me because I don't have any issues. They got all the issues. It's totally amazing. So the concept is, we learn after a while that blame is only a game. I call it the blame game. And as a result, then, we realize the fact that after a period of time, I got to stop blaming everybody else. I got to make decisions that are healthy for me. I got to be able to walk through and go to the other side. Believe me, it's not easy. That's why we need to talk about the outside of the iceberg. These are all the things that keep the iceberg frozen, that keep it from melting, that keep it from change taking place. The other one is the big one, the face of control, the face of thinking and playing God, the face of literally saying, I can handle anything, I'm in control, when you're not in control. The hardest thing in life is to let go, and let life take you where it's supposed to go, and realize the fact that sometimes we have to go places it's not necessary we need to go to, so we can learn from another part of our life. It's hard, it's not easy, but it's a big part of the process. And so control is tough. Whenever you try to control something, guess what? You destroy it. Controlling something is destruction. And so in life, how many times, did you ever try to control the weather? Look at nature. It's amazing, isn't it? You never know what's going to happen next. And that's where faith comes into play, in the sense that I can't fix somebody else. I can't control somebody else. I can't make them. We do this to our kids a lot of times. Our kids are growing up. I don't want them to feel what I feel, what I went through. Therefore, I'm making plans for their life. I'm going to make sure that they get what they need to get. We end up, enabling them, spoiling them, doing all kinds of stuff. But we wonder why they get angry at us, they get mad at us, because they got to find their own journey They got to go out there. Animals know this better than we do. You know, there's a beautiful documentary. I watched it on tigers. When the little tigers begin to get bigger, the mother actually takes the back of her hand and starts smacking them. Get out there and start hunting. Get out there and start being responsible. Get out there and start doing your work. You got to work you got to walk your own journey now. You got to make your own mistakes. You got to learn from them, be responsible for them. But see, again, when I try to control somebody else and make them be what I want them to be, I'm actually not hurting them, I'm hurting myself too. You know, I joke a lot about this, but I always talk about what I call the Italian syndrome. I get phone calls all the time. I love them. People call me up and they say, "Can you help my son?" I said, "How old's your son?" 52. I said, "Does he want help?" "No." "What am I going to do? How do I make him get off the sofa?" I said, "Well, unplug the TV, and sell the sofa." What can I tell you? I can't give you other advice I can't give you. Maybe you can do that, then it won't be a sofa. Then that's a lay on the floor. But the bottom line is, who got him to that point? Then we have the Italian syndrome, which is famous in South Philly. That concept of the 80-year-old Italian mother and the 60-year-old Italian son, and they're walking down the street, and he says, "Can I date yet?" She says, "No, you're not ready, because you belong to me." If she dies and he ever does date, she'll haunt the person he dates. It's totally amazing. She'll put a malak on him and take care of him in that direction. But the bottom line is, you get caught up in this control thing. And I've learned over the years, you want agita, you want headaches, you want to go nuts, try to control it. Faith and releasing and letting go is the secret to life. That's a big part of it. The other one big part of the face of addiction is dishonesty, and along with that comes secrets. That's a big part of the face of addiction. I am so embarrassed. What do? I begin to tell lies, make up stories, make believe. I go to the other face of addiction, which is I go into a fantasy world, a make-believe world, which you know as well as I. Once you start making things up, once you start creating them, if you do that for a long period of time, you start to believe your own lies. It becomes engraved in you. And as a result, then you have a really hard time changing and getting out of it. So many times in the course of our journey in life, many of us have tried to be something we're not. And we know we're not, but we try to prove to people that we are. Then we drive ourselves crazy. Again, it's all about avoiding. It's all about trying to hide, to run away from. All these things are part of the process. We go off and we talk about addiction. And you know as well as I, we're as sick as our secrets. Your secrets will kill you. They'll destroy you from the inside. Yeah, work hard when you have secrets, believe me. And as a result, then, to face them is scary. I always tell the story when I was a priest. A lady came to visit me. And she said, "I need to talk to you, Father." I said, "Sure." Now, she was in her early 60s. And she said, "I've been putting this off and putting this off and putting this off for a long period of time. I've been carrying something inside of me for such a long period of time. I have something I never told anyone. I've ended up losing 4 marriages. My kids won't talk to me anymore. Life's a total disaster and mess. I've been embalming myself with pills and drugs and everything. I have." And so she said, I got to tell you, this is confidential." I said, "Yes, it is." When she was a child, she was severely molested by her father and by a Catholic priest. And she was scared to actually talk about that. And when she finally talked about it and got it out, she was crying, carrying, and literally, it's almost like this, you'll almost see this. It was like this load was on top of her. And all of a sudden, it's like she almost collapsed. The load came off. And it's amazing. I still have contact with her. She's 84, I think now, or 85, I forget. And she's in a recovery program today. Her life has changed dramatically because she finally faced her demons. But you know what happens a lot of times to avoid those demons, to avoid having to face them? We make believe they're not there. We go into fantasy land. We go into the concept of making things up, lying, staying away from it. So I don't want anybody to know what's really going on inside of me. So what do? I freeze it, bury it, and then I create this image on the outside. And that leads us to the next phase. We live our lives externally, not internally. Everything's about image. How do I look? How do I come across to somebody else? I have no sense of who I really am. I got to make sure everybody thinks I'm the cat's meow. I'm everything. And so I'm constantly trying to put this show on. You know what's so scary about that? When you put a show on and you put a performance on, then people expect you to put the performance on forever. Well, you get comfortable in it. I know when I was in the priesthood, literally, and I understand that now, I functioned extremely well. I ran youth programs, coached teams, did all kinds of stuff. But I never stood still to look in the mirror because I was too busy doing all the external stuff. It's safe. At the same time, it's not safe. Because literally, it's like I got to make sure I'm always there. To give an example of this, I spent 2 years studying speech and drama at Catholic University. And one of the things they did in our speech and drama class, when they ever put a play on, they gave you a role to play in the play. So I remember one play I did called Stalag 17. It was about the prisoner of war camp. It's almost like in many ways, you kind of saw this on TV, like Schultz and all those crazy characters. But the bottom line is, I had to play the character of Animal. Now, Animal was the guy that was always kind of gruffy. He used to wear these big slippers all the time, the high top slippers. He used to always have long johns on, and he used to always constantly need a shave and have one of those beanie hats on. He was a total nut. Well, that was my role. So as part of my class, for 2 weeks prior to the play, I had to live the role of Animal. That meant I had to go to school dressed as Animal, functioning as Animal, acting the role out. I got graded on it. Then we put the play on for 4 weeks. Now I'm playing Animal for 6 weeks. Do you know I got comfortable being Animal? Hey, take a bath once a week, walk around with all crappy clothes on. What the hell? Let it all go. And as a result, then, after the play was over, I had a hard time becoming Vince again. We actually had 2 psychologists on the staff there to help us deprogram, to walk out of our role. And I found that so interesting because so many times addicts do this, people in addiction do this. They're so used to their addictive behaviors, so used to the patterns, the stuff they're into, that literally when they have to make a change and move into something else, it scares the hell out of them. You want me to just live like a normal life? What are you, crazy? I'm used to the excitement, the insanity, the clandestine, all that kind of crazy stuff. And yet, as you do this, it's not real. It's sick. It's crazy. But you get used to it after a while. It's almost like a game that you play. You see this a lot of times. I can walk around like I'm Johnny Cool. I got it all together. I got the fancy car. I got all this kind of stuff and everything else. I got the wad of money. It's all $1 bills, but I got a wad of money. I can show everybody I got a lot of money. See, you don't really have a lot of money, but it's a game. We get caught up in it. It's all dishonesty. It's all that concept of avoiding and staying away. The other face of addiction is isolation. To isolate, to hide, to run, to go into my cocoon, to literally become almost antisocial. Another form of addiction. I don't want anybody to get close to me because you might get to know me. I don't want to go near anybody. So I can isolate, I can hide, I can run from life. I want to find a comfortable place, put myself there, and therefore I don't have to deal with anything or do anything in life. It's called irresponsibility. I live in this little sacred little world of mine. Don't you dare come in. Keep everybody away. Many of us are scared of relationships. We're scared of things. So what do? I can isolate and just stay away from all this stuff. I don't have to feel and deal with stuff in my life. With those external things a lot of times, because externally it looks good. But the other part of isolation is I literally can hide and run away. It's like I don't exist. Yet I'm comfortable not existing. So I can just stay in my cocoon, watch 18 hours of TV a day, lay on that sofa we were talking about earlier, eat, sleep, and wait for the undertaker to come. We call that life, by the way. It's like being dead while you're alive. What I find so interesting is because along with this is another face of addiction called rigidity. Rigid. Everything's got to be black and white. My way or the highway. Another face of addiction. And as a result, then I literally have to control everything. See, they all interact with each other. I try to control. I'm rigid. It's my way. I often said this when I was a young seminarian and a young priest. I don't think he would have liked me, because I was that fire and brimstone, black and white guy, and all that kind of stuff. Everything was rules and regulations, and that's another hiding place tremendously. You can hide behind the rules. See, again, it goes back to blame and everything else. Like, can't do that because they tell me I can't do it, so I can't do it. See, so it's them, not me. See how that works? It's another form of addiction. It's a way for me to avoid, to run away. And that's the other big face of addiction called avoidance. And avoidance goes into every basic area we're talking about. To avoid, to run away from, hide, to get in my little cocoon. And if everybody gets close to me, I always yell that word at them. I'm fine. Stay away from me. Don't bother me. I got it all together. What are you bothering me for? I'm fine. That's a scary word. There's a lady here in Holiday City. I love her. I say, how you doing today? I'm fine. She walks right away from me. Every time I see her, I'm fine. I'm fine. No problem. Fine. No problem. Fine. Hey, what? Are you alive? Fine. The bottom line is, remember our definition of the word fine. And I can't say the one word on TV, on Zoom, but I am frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Congratulations, you're fine. And yet we do this all the time to ourselves. And what am I doing? I know I'm no different than you or anybody else. I am scared to death to defrost that iceberg. I'm going to get in touch with a lot of things going on inside of me. I have to get in touch with my defects of character. I have to be able to work in another direction. And you know what's so beautiful about this? The founders of AA understood the damn iceberg. And that's one of the major reasons why they put the steps into place, the traditions into place. They give us tools and ways to defrost the iceberg. And it's an ongoing process. See, again, we look at life in a very simple way. We're not an iceberg, you're a person. Congratulations. Okay? And be able to realize the importance of getting in touch with your personhood. Each one of us is a unique and special individual. Even you too, Charlie. Each one of us is unique and each one of us is special. Yeah, Frank, you too. But the bottom line is, we have to realize something. That because of our uniqueness and our specialness, we have to learn how to honor and celebrate ourselves and see the gift that we are. Just be able to share that with others and open it up with others. That's the fun about life, about the living of life. I get excited when I talk about this because it took me 45 to 46 years just to start my little bit of an awakening. And the more I learn, the more I grow, the more I put things in. I read that Al-Anon piece, and it just hit home so much in the concept of it. And I realized more and more that there's so much more than just being you. Enjoy who you are. I don't care what size you are, what color you are, how old you are, how young you are. It doesn't make a difference. We all got things to share with each other, honor with each other. I don't care if you have hair or don't have hair. What's the difference? We're people, we're human beings. That's the fun part about it. As a result, then, we basically, yes, we have talents, we have gifts. We have stuff to share with each other, and everybody is important. That's why I'm so grateful, with such gratitude, that we have 12-step programs, that we have places where we can meet other people, listen to their stories, learn from them, grow from them. Because we all got a story. Try to remember this. Your story is the greatest story on the face of this earth, because it's yours, and mine is mine. Yours is unique, mine is unique. Things we do in life are unique. I'm in a process right now. I got about 3 pages written already. I'm writing the history of Starting Point from the beginning right on through. I need to put that story out there. The story of a beautiful little place, something that's very special and beautiful. And yet I know it was my starting point and many people's starting point, a place where we began, where we moved forward. Then we had to move on, move in other directions. That's the key to the whole thing. And yet it's so beautiful to realize the fact that even with these different faces we talked about tonight, the face of addiction is part of our life. Anything I can become dependent on then can become an addiction to me. And that's why it's so important to realize the fact that we're just connected to one another. Yes, we need each other. Yes, that's true. We need one another. We learn from each other. We grow from each other. I'm a senior citizen now, so I get to go to different doctors. It's wonderful. It comes along with the territory. What can I say? But I'm so glad I'm able to bring my wife with me because she can advocate. Because half the time I don't know what they're talking about, but she does. And so I'm grateful that we can work as a team together to learn about things and grow. Beautiful part about it. Now I'm doing this test on my throat because apparently they put that tube down here into my camera. I never thought I'd have a camera in my throat looking around my crazy throat. And apparently I have mucus around my vocal cords, and they have to work on how to release that mucus. That's why I get clogged up every so often. And so I got to see all about it. Actually, on television, it was unbelievable. Do you ever want to get to see your vocal cords on TV? It's fantastic. And they even emailed it to me. I got a copy of it. Maybe you ever want a copy of my vocal cords, I'm going to send it to you. But the bottom line is, you learn so much about so many things about yourself as a person. And yet you have to kind of do it with a sense of humor. Is it funny? Not completely, no. But you got to laugh a little bit. And I said this the other day. In the morning, they always say, in one of my prayers, they say, well, I call God the boss, by the way. Say, boss, you're in charge. You ever got in store for me today? Bring it on. Well, I guess I said it on Monday. I'm glad God's got a sense of humor. Because, man, he messed my day up fantastically on Monday. Beginning with a dead battery in the car, part of a cable, another situation. They came and did taxes. Then there's something else I had to straighten out. I had to go make an appointment at the bank, get something else straightened out, go in this direction. I had to cancel appointments. Oh, my God, what a day. Unbelievable. So at the end of the day, I said, God, you had fun today, didn't you? You really did, didn't you? He said, okay. I'm glad you had fun. But guess what? I didn't have a lot of fun today. I was a little aggravated today. But that's okay. I'm glad you did. I'm glad somebody did. So we can bring all this stuff into your prayers, connect it to your prayers, make it part of your life. Live every day to the best of your ability, because not one of us knows a damn thing about tomorrow. I don't want to know about tomorrow. If I wake up tomorrow, I get to see Ben. It's fantastic. If not, I'll see him a different way. That's what it's all about. It's the fun part about it. So it's a big part about the journey, the things we go through in the course of life. I get, it's unbelievable just to be able to connect with people. I get so excited when I see all of you. I even get excited, when I see people. Even Ralph. See that Ralph, I get excited when I see it. It's unbelievable. That's the fun part about life. To see new faces and new people and be connected. It's such a great experience. You come right down to it. And each week we can't start till Pat gets here, so it's fantastic. But it's the fun part about life. So we all have our uniqueness. We have our specialness. So I'm not giving you the faces of addiction to bring you down. These are behaviors that we get involved in, the ways in which we avoid and run away from things in life. So tonight as I pray that everyone will be able to face our demons, our addictions, whatever you want to call them, realize they're part of our journey. But if you can learn to face them, we'll work more on facing them deeper next week. Then I can grow, I can learn from them and move forward from them. And that's the secret to this process. And that's how we start the product of melting that iceberg. And so next week, we're all going to bring hot water so we can start melting the damn iceberg. See what we can do with it, okay? Have some fun with it. It's a big part of it. So let us pray. God, we come before you as a family tonight. We come before you in celebration and prayer. We pray to the God of our understanding, higher power, or higher presence, whatever we choose to call you. Help us and guide us and be with us in our journey as we walk the journey of this earth. Help us in our confusion. Guide us. But above all, teach us not to be afraid, to reach out to one another, be connected to each other. Teach us that we are family. We are connected. We are bonded. Teach us to learn, to grow from each other, to experience new things from each other. Teach us to be open and not be afraid. It's a beautiful thing to be able to walk the journey of earth. With all its pitfalls, the things we go through, our aches, our pains, our crying, our joy, our celebration. It's such a mixture of so many emotions, so many feelings. Give me the strength, give us the strength to be able to embrace them, to grow from them, to cry with them, to celebrate with them, to bring all these things as part of our journey and part of life. So we celebrate you, we celebrate life. We celebrate the journey. Help us to work through even our things that are adverse, our sicknesses, things that happen to us. Maybe our little things that happen to us in life that we can't function the way we used to. Teach us acceptance, teach us love, and teach us humility. And give us a chance to adjust where we have to go in the course of this journey. So we pray and we ask this for your guidance and your direction. We ask we'll be open to learn and to grow. We pray this in your name. Amen.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.